Let's ride. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Moto Mission Adventure Podcast. We're telling stories of adventure and also adventurous lives. Rob Glass is the guest today, and he's a bit of a legend. And to hear him talk all things adventure, it's pretty incredible. This guy spent, I think it was 12,000 miles riding solo on his motorcycle and camping all by himself. 12,000 miles. And we're gonna hop into his story. He and I met in Texas riding together at Big Bend National Park, and that's how we met. He's just a legend in the adventure motorcycle community. So he's got some thoughts on adventure. So let's get into it. Today we have Rob Glass that I'm gonna bring on here in just a moment, but just want to thank everybody who's behind us. Thanks for listening, but also thank you to Cardo Systems, SSI decals, and Green Chili Adventure Gear. Thank you guys for believing in what we're doing over here. So let's get into it. Rob, welcome to the show. How are you, buddy?
All right, Brock, man, it's great to see you again. We haven't seen each other since last Christmas at when we rode together at Big Bend, I think.
Let me tell we have to start with this story because it's crazy. Okay,
yeah, man, it's a good story.
So,
yeah.
so
it's like every story, every adventure riding story. It's not that unusual.
I think that from my point of view, it was such a like, oh my gosh, look what just happened. It was just so fun. Let me catch our listeners up real quick on what happened. We were riding at Big Bend. Well, let me start over. I went to Big Bend, Texas to ride and talk to some rangers at the national park there about where to ride. And they looked at me like I was crazy and said, "You can't ride here." And I was like, well, maybe we're not on the same page here. I came here to ride on like dirt roads, and they were like, well, "You can't do that here. It's too dangerous." And I was so confused, thought, maybe I got bad information. I thought you could ride there.
Especially alone.
I know. And they said, there's one thing, they said, there's one road you can ride, but you can't do it unless you have a partner. And I'm like, well, I don't have a partner. It's just me and my wife here. And they said, well, too bad. You better find somebody or you can't ride here. And one person was really unfriendly. Let's just put it that way. So I walk out of that office onto the sidewalk, and you, Rob, are riding by, and we make eye contact, and you pull in. And what did you say?
I said, well, I remember one of the things I said was we talked, we connected. Actually, I drove by, we made a little bit of an eye contact. You know, you kind of raised your hand and I nodded, you know, like we do. And then I pulled in, which I thought was next to your bike, your Sprinter van and your bike. And we started talking, and you gave me a little bit of the story about talking to the ranger and needing to find somebody to ride with. And I think I said, well, how good a rider are you? Because I wasn't interested in riding with a newbie. I wanted somebody that has some experience to ride.
Yeah.
And, I said, are you any good? I think that's what I said. Are you any good? And you said, yeah, I'm okay. I can ride. So that's how it started. How do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I remember you pulling in, and like within 10 seconds, you were like, "Hey, do you need a riding partner?" And I was like, "Well, yeah. I mean, my gosh, I was just talking to them. They were saying you need a riding partner, and you ride up like literally all in one continuous motion. So it was pretty funny. But yeah, you did. You were like, but are you any good? Because you didn't want to babysit me that day. I think you were there to have fun and go rip.
Yeah.
So
yeah, sure was. I think I was. That was Christmas, so I'm trying to remember what tail end of a ride I was on. I had wanted to ride in Big Bend. It had been a goal of mine. Back in 1975, I took a 4-month camping trip with my wife. I wasn't riding back then, and so I had a little trailer, camper trailer that I was hauling, and we went around the perimeter of the United States. Took 4 months. And I wanted to go down to Big Bend then, but it was just out of the way. It was just too far. I couldn't get to it. So riding in Big Bend, Rock was a 70, about a a 45-year goal of mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
riding with you, that was a goal of mine that I had set 45 years ago.
That's incredible. Well,
Yeah.
I had a blast. I want to get into we actually had an amazing ride. That was a really, really good ride. If you guys are listening and have never heard of good adventure riding in Big Bend, I'm here to tell you it is good adventure riding. Don't you think, Rob?
Yeah, man. What was the name of that, the really tough trail? Black Ore or
I don't remember. You'll have to watch the video because you and I we filmed it and it's a YouTube video on my channel, but I don't remember
yeah,
the name of that really crazy road that was
yeah,
it was pretty challenging, but we loved
yeah.
it.
So we rode. I had been there the day before and been riding all around. So by the time you and I finished, I had ridden every place there was to ride off road at Big Bend.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, let's go into a little bit of your I guess background. I guess I want to get into like when I say background, like what do you do like currently, and then we're going to back up a little bit. So what do you
Yeah.
do? Introduce
Well,
yourself, I should say.
I'm a motorcycle gypsy or a moto hobo. I people ask me where I live, and my response is basically wherever my motorcycle's parked, that's where my
That's
home is.
exactly right.
And
Yep.
so my mail is sent to Atlanta, Georgia. I lived in Atlanta for 30 years, and but for the last 8 years, 8.5 years, I've just been riding my motorcycle. And so when I started off with my adventure life, um, I rode for about 4 or 5 months, almost maybe half a year. And then I ran into folks from Rawhide Adventures, and I went down and had some training there and rode more about a year. And I can, anyway, so then I reconnected with Rawhide and hung out. And the owner of Rawhide asked if I, wanted to hang around a little bit more. And I said, sure.
And
So I went.
and just to be clear, Rawhide is it's a school. It's a riding
It's an
school.
adventure
Teach you how to
riding
ride.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Southern California. It
Yeah.
sure is. And so I started hanging out at Rawhide, and I started doing a little bit of construction work and then other details, and started watching all the trainers and learning from them and essentially riding with the trainers. A great
Yeah.
way to learn how to ride off-road is to ride with somebody who's a little bit better than you.
Sure.
And so I would start doing that, and that made me into a much better rider. So eventually, I became a coach at Rawhide after
Wow.
a series of quite some time. So I do adventure riding training, coaching, and
Yeah.
I did that at Rawhide for 7 years, and now I'm with Austin Moto Adventures, which is located at Reveille Peak Ranch, just about an hour west of Austin, Texas.
Wow. That's great. Tell us, I want to hear about you've been riding for a long time, but really
No,
hardcore for the last eight
no,
years
I
you've been
haven't.
riding.
No, see, all right. So
What?
here's the cool thing. So I started riding my adventure bike, which is the bike I still ride. Same bike. It's a 2006 GS 1200.
Yeah. Okay. You started riding on that bike. Is that what you're saying?
That's my bike. Yeah, I still have the same bike I started riding on.
I totally
The only
thought you had
adventure
been
bike I've
riding for
ever owned.
100 years. Okay. Okay.
The only
Okay.
bike I've ever owned, but I bought it used.
Okay.
But what you don't know, Brock, is that well, like Abraham, who was called to leave home at a very old age, and
Yeah.
without really knowing where he was headed, but God just called him
Yeah.
to leave. And you can just imagine what his family or neighbor would say. Hey, Abraham, or Abram was what he was called then. Where are you going? And his response would be, I don't know. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was 63 years old when I started riding my adventure bike.
Okay.
So that was only, well, I'm into my 72nd year now.
Okay.
So yeah, about 9 years ago, I guess.
Wow.
So I left after a series of, I had a professional life and raised a family, and things worked out to a point where it was time for me to leave, and I didn't know where I was going to go. So essentially, I gave up all my worldly goods, basically, and left on a motorcycle, and I've been gone since.
Wow.
How about that? Pretty strange, huh?
Wow. That's wild. Well, I have so much to ask about that. And so you left and basically sold everything and you
Right.
left.
So I sold or gave it away. I gave away a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I had a marketing company. I had been working in higher education marketing and communications. I helped colleges recruit students, basically, help them with
Okay.
their marketing campaigns. And
Yeah.
so I did that for 30 years. And the last 10 of those, I had my own company. And it was time for me to change my life at that point. So
Yeah.
I did it.
It's so there's just a little bit of Forrest Gump feel right there with that story. Like just take off and
Yeah,
just
man.
go.
Just go. Don't know where I'm going. It's like when when you're out on a ride and you stop to get gas and somebody says, "Well, hey, where are you headed?" And your response is either, I don't know, or I'm headed to get lost. That's all I want to do. I'm just trying to
Oh,
get
I love
lost.
it. I love it. Tell me
Yeah.
where your favorite place to get lost is. What's out of all your adventures riding the last 9 years, where's been your favorite places?
Well, maybe the next one I'm going to ride. How about that?
Oh, a great answer.
I don't know. So I've got so many memories. I've ridden all the lower 48. I've gone into Canada and I've gone into Mexico also. So
Wow.
Utah, it's hard to beat Utah.
Yes.
But probably one of my more memorable rides was in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan when I was first starting to ride on my first 4 month journey. So I hadn't decided yet what I was going to do. So I had prayed about this. I was still in my business, had my company, and I was at a conference in Florida, but I had my bike with me and I had my truck with me then. So basically, I hadn't gotten rid of everything. And so I had prayed about what I was going to do. I was restless. I was tired of doing what I was doing. Um, and so prayed about it and said, I guess maybe set a deal with God and said, if I get some business out of this conference, I'll continue to work doing my job, what I've been doing. But, if I don't get any work out of this conference, I think it's time for me just to leave like you've been calling me to leave. And so I didn't get any business. So I left right then and took 4 months to go from Florida to Seattle. And I'd set up a base camp using my truck. And I'd just go explore from that base camp point out. And so I was in the Upper Peninsula doing that. I went up into Copper Harbor, and which is the highest most northerly point you can get in Michigan. And it almost didn't make it back. it was late in the day. I didn't know how to ride very well. And so I got bogged down in this mud bog, and essentially had the bike upside down in a mud bog. But I was
Wow.
able finally to get it out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man.
And just to lean into that story a little bit, we're talking about a 500-pound motorcycle.
Yeah,
The
so
GS?
well, 550 pounds. Yeah. But that's unladen, so I didn't
Right.
have camping gear. I've had last summer, talking about memorable trips. So last summer I went back to the Upper Peninsula. This was all camping, riding solo. So I was all self-contained. So I rode from Southern California up to Sturgis. We had a little event in Sturgis, but not the Harley thing, but we had a training program that we were doing in Sturgis. So then
Yeah.
I went up to the Upper Peninsula and then into Canada, rode down the Canadian highway, which is not something you want to do. That's just a big interstate with a lot of big trucks. So I got off of that pretty quickly. And then when I was above Montana, I went south and got into the Wyoming BDR. And so I did the Wyoming BDR, and then I did the Colorado BDR, and then the Utah BDR. So I did about 12,000 miles last summer solo camping. And so that was probably the best summer of my life.
Oh,
So that's
wow.
from a holistic view of riding, that was really one of the best rides I've ever had.
12,000 miles of riding, mostly dirt, solo camping.
Correct. That's correct.
That's incredible.
Yeah, correct. When I was 70 to 71 years old.
I'm,
you don't age. I talk to people all the time. They go, "Oh, I'm too old to do this." No, you're not. You're not too old to do this. It is. Yeah, it's physical for sure. You got to be in a little bit of shape to do it, but it's so much more mental than it is physical.
Talk about that. Talk about the physical like capabilities and fitness and like for a person who's listening right now who's like, "Hey, I'm in my 60s and I've, maybe rode before, but they probably believe, oh, I could never do something like that." Like, you're 70 in your 70s right now. How can you convince me? Convince me that I can go do that if I'm 65 or 68 years old,
Well, man, it's I think it's our job to dig up whatever potential we have and whatever situation we're in, and then to invest in it, and to grow through it. So I am blessed in the fact that I'm healthy. I've had cancer. I've had heart surgery also. So, but I'm healthy now. Having the right training. If you're thinking of doing any kind of adventure riding, you really have to know how to ride, and having training is the right way to do it. You've got to start with training, and in the process of training, you become more physically fit. Before I started riding in my my adventure life, Brock, I told you I had cancer, so I was monitoring my health pretty carefully over a period of time. So, you do your blood work and you get the results back, and you have some things that are in the red and some categories that are in the green. And so I had high cholesterol and high different areas where my blood analysis was not right. So I started riding my adventure bike. I didn't change my diet. I didn't change any of my physical activity other than I just started riding. I think the combination of riding and the meditative aspect of riding, allowing me to be less stressful, really changed my health. So now when I have my blood work done, everything's in the green.
That's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. And the only thing I've changed, other than I don't have much stress in my life now, is riding my motorcycle.
Oh my goodness, that is incredible. I mean, that's really remarkable.
Yeah, it's So let me tell you this. Let me tell you another story.
Yeah.
About what caused me to make these big changes. Okay. Change is a difficult concept to embrace, particularly as you grow older and have responsibilities. So my kids were grown at that point. I'd been married for 30 years, and so I was struggling with my marriage and just feeling anxious about my work. I just felt as though there was something else that I needed to be doing. So I had I started having these reoccurring dreams, which I actually call them visions, and this I won't go into a whole lot of detail of it, but this dream. I was walking down a hallway, and there were all these doors on both sides of the hallway, and there was this person at the end of the hall, and he was pointing at the doors. And he was standing up. Let's see if I can get back here. So he was standing up and just sort of, pointing, And so I kept having this dream, and I would be further down the hallway every time the dream happened. And so I started interpreting this as, okay, that's Christ that's at the end of the hall. And he's telling me, pick a door, and I'll support you in whatever you choose to do. I'll support you in that. I'm like, okay. And so the last of those visions I had, I realized I was further enough down the hall, walking towards Christ, that instead of him pointing at the doors, what I saw him doing is going, walk towards me. Just walk towards me. That's all you got to do. Just come towards me. You don't have to worry about these doors. You don't have to worry about these choices. All you have to do is just keep walking towards me and following me. And so, brother, that's what I've been doing.
Wow, that's
That's what I've been
interesting.
doing for the last 8 years. I had one other dream. I had two other dreams.
Uh-huh.
One, and I won't go into a whole lot of detail, but one, I was lost in a jungle,
Okay.
and I turned around, and here was this native with a machete, with long black hair, and he was cutting a path through these vines through the jungle, and he turned around and looked at me, and that was Christ.
Wow.
He was cutting a path for me. All I
Oh,
had to do was
wow.
follow him.
Very cool.
All
Yeah,
I had to
yeah,
do was follow him.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then the third one of these that I had, I came down onto a boat, a fishing boat, an old fishing boat, and it was in a storm. And I was in the stern of the boat, and I saw Christ walking off on the water, and
He's been known to do that.
the sea calmed down, and he called Peter out of the boat, and I saw, from my point of view, I was looking at my feet, and I stepped up onto the gunwale of the boat and stepped out into the water, and I woke up, and I said,
Wow.
"Okay, I understand. I understand." So I had been working at this marketing company for 20 years at that point, 20 years exactly to the day. That very next day, I walked into the president of the company's office, and I was the executive vice president. I was the second guy in charge. And I said, "I'm leaving the company." And he said, "When?" I said, "Like tomorrow,
Wow.
as soon as possible." So I left the next day.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah. So that's my story, brother.
I mean, that's real adventure. And I mean, obviously, your faith and your relationship with God is like very close to you and very important to you. And it's been a guide. It sounds like he's given you through dreams and visions and things like that some help and direction and that sort of thing. And that's it
Yeah,
takes
man.
it takes getting out of the boat and walking, you know?
Yeah, you do. It takes faith. It takes faith
Yeah. Yeah.
to just um, get out of the boat and walk. Yeah,
Yeah, because
without knowing where you're headed, like Abraham.
yeah.
You don't. I
Yeah.
don't. And so, what I do now, it's like when people come in for training, adventure riding training.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that I sometimes will say is, you all think, and about 90% of the folks that come through are men. And so I'll say, if it's an all male group, I'll say, you guys think you're coming here to learn how to ride a motorcycle, but that's not what this is about.
Mm.
You're going to learn so much about yourself in the process of learning how to ride your motorcycle. And what I've discovered over the 9 years that I've been doing this, 8 years, 9 years, is that as I have the opportunity to interact with these men on a personal level, what I find out is a lot of them are struggling with, work or their relationships or their kids or
Yeah.
their health or something.
Yeah.
And they're looking for something else besides what they've got. And
Sure.
for some men, they think that adventure riding is this other thing that they need to hook onto.
Do you have a story of someone that you've, you know, talked with who's kind of what you're talking about? They came thinking they're going to learn how to ride a motorcycle, but they discovered something totally different about themselves. Do you have a story that's at the top of your mind that we could kind of hear, or maybe an
Well,
example of things that people?
I don't know if I can tell you of a specific person, but I can tell you that it's not unusual for people after they come through the training program to reach back to me and say, the experience that I had learning how to ride my motorcycle with you changed my life.
Wow.
And so the way that I look at my work now is that this is a ministry that I do.
Sure.
And I just happen to be able to ride motorcycles and explore the world, and in the process, get. I love the taste of failure.
Okay.
Failing is you learn from your failures,
Right.
and you cannot ride an adventure bike without failing.
Right.
You're going to fail all the time.
Right. That's part of it.
And it's a big part of it. And in the process of failing, you learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like how you react to that failure, how you recover and adapt from those failures. I mean, even if it's not a crash, I mean, we've all had those. Anytime you ride a motorcycle, you're going to hit the ground at some point. Shoot, I think I hit the ground, most times I ride, I fall over, tip over something, you know what I mean? And you can learn about like your patience and your anger and your fuse and all of those things when things aren't going well, or if you have a flat tire and you're struggling with whatever, and then the fear of getting stuck out in the middle of nowhere, because like you, I ride solo a lot,
not a
right
good
across the
idea.
country.
It's not a good idea. Anybody out there is a new rider, don't ride solo.
It's say that again.
If you're a new rider, don't go out there by yourself. Yeah, that's asking for
Trouble.
Big time trouble.
Yeah.
You need to be very experienced if you're going to do solo riding.
Trouble can happen quick, but back to that point, it's like you'll learn so much about yourself, and even that, like if you're inexperienced and try to ride solo, you're going to learn something about yourself real fast, and part of it might be hey, you need more wisdom before you ride around the world by yourself on a without experience. So, and I know that you're an advocate for getting training, as you've said many times, like get trained and then ride together. That's what you and I did.
Well, that's it. You meet, you and I would not know each other if we hadn't met like we did, if we weren't riding. But yeah, so that's the other special part of riding an adventure bike is the community.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you brought that up. I think that the moto community it's my favorite. I just absolutely love the motorcycle community, the adventure community. I just love it. And I can see people from across the parking lot and like you, and make eye contact, and we're probably about to go hang out. Like it's that kind of tightness. And I meet people, you may not know this, but I meet people often, and I hear your name brought up, because the community is it's kind of a small community. Us
Oh, it is.
riders,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely is.
But yeah, people who've maybe seen you on my video, or I'll bring your name up or something. Oh, I know Rob. He's a legend.
Well, I love doing it.
Yeah,
man. Let's talk about the meditative side of riding.
Yes, you mentioned that, and I want to hear.
So,
I want you to
define listen to music
that.
when you ride?
I never listen to music when I ride.
I
not on adventure bikes. No.
I don't either. I like to be able to hear the engine, but then also like to be able to hear my thoughts.
Yeah.
When I'm riding, and once I know from experience that for new riders, it's a very anxious feeling when you're riding off road. But after you have you've reached the fourth level of learning, which is unconscious competence, where you don't have to think about what you're doing. So so as a new rider, you're going to start out at being unconsciously incompetent. Okay, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know that you're supposed to stand on the foot pegs when you ride off road. Right. You just don't know. You don't know how to feather the clutch, how to find the friction zone to control your speed when you're riding. You just don't know. So you're unconsciously incompetent. So the second level, and that's where it happens probably mid-morning of the first day of training, where we're beginning to talk about friction zone and standing and eyes and head movement and body positioning on the bike, and so the coaches all are describing that, and the riders can't do it. You know, they hear it.
Yeah.
You're just not doing it.
Yeah.
And so that's the second level of learning, where you are consciously incompetent. Okay. Sure. and as a rider, you're thinking, oh, I am counterbalancing. I know I am. And you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then after probably the 3/4 of the training, second day, about halfway through the second day, it finally starts to click. And the riders are beginning to actually do what needs to be done in terms of body positioning, speed control, setting up a speed before they go into a 180 turn, turning their head wide, keeping their eyes up. They know now to do that. And so, but they're having to think about it all the time.
Yeah.
And so at that point, they're consciously competent. Okay.
Yeah.
But it takes a whole lot of energy to be that way. Okay. You get exhausted doing that. And so the pleasure is when you finally get to that fourth level where you don't have to think. Okay. Every once in a while you do. Like that ride on Black Ore, I think is the name of that road that we went on.
Yeah.
In Big Bend. We had to think through that. There was that one step.
Right.
That one step that, how big was that step?
It was big. It was probably
like 2 feet.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it continued to go up. It was very challenging. It was very, very technical.
Yeah. So there was a little rock ramp that we kind of jumped up through, but then it was still a rock climb up.
Yeah.
And then a lot of loose stuff happening. Yeah. Got to think through that. That's the kind of riding I love, that technical, tough stuff.
Sure.
But all of the previous training that you do, all the previous riding that you do, prepares you to do that. And remember, at one point we were getting ready to do the run up the ramp, and I said to you, I came up to you and looked you in the face, and I said, Brock, don't think, just do, man. Go.
We didn't have time to think, because as soon as you said that, we took off. And
you don't think. You can't. If you start thinking and second guessing it, you're not going to do it. You're not going to.
Yeah, you'll talk yourself out of it, because it was honestly it was bigger and nastier than I thought we could do, given the bikes that we had brought. I was like, I don't know if we can do this. And next thing you know, you took off, and I was like, we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. So that was one of my highlight rides.
I would say it was for me too. I absolutely loved it. And but back to what you were saying about like the meditative state of riding, I have found that many times, and sometimes it takes time on the bike to get there. And but you know that fourth level of learning and that competency where you're not even thinking about it anymore, that's where the brain can kind of freely roam. Correct. And I find that for me, I have deeper thoughts, have healing thoughts, if that makes any sense at all, and prayerful thoughts, and all of those things kind of they're in that space, you know.
Yeah, it is in that space. So when I'm in that space, like I rode down, have you ridden in Escalante, the Grand Staircase near Escalante, Utah?
Yes. So, beautiful.
The beautiful John Burr Trail, have you ridden through that?
Not all of it. I've only done a piece of it, but I'm going back next year to do the whole thing.
Yeah. So the John Burr Trail was one of my early off-road rides, and I went back this summer after 8 years. It was wonderful. And so I was able to, during that ride, have a kind of a prayerful time. It's not a difficult ride because it's
sure,
but it's so beautiful. But yeah, you get into these points where it's just so beautiful where you're riding, and it's just a real grace, a real feeling of thankfulness to be a part of it.
It's almost ironic, but you know, we're in motion, and we're on a bike, and we're moving, but things slow down and in a way, and that's, to me, like the beauty of it is you just get to like take it in and take in the nature and the wind in your face. And that's the part that a lot of people never understand, but there is something really, really incredible about doing that. And it's just a whole new level. So man, I hosted a ride across the Colorado BDR, and we're going to start doing more of those types of things, which, by the way, if you're listening to this and want to ride with us in places like the Colorado BDR or Idaho or Utah, we're on our website, we're going to be announcing all those dates and different rides that we're hosting and just various things.
Oh
But
yeah.
Rob, I would like for you to come out and ride with us, man.
Man, you don't have to ask me twice. My schedule's open, meaning I'm not training that weekend or involved in another tour, brother. I'm right there. I have the opportunity also. I get to ride with a lot of really good people, really good riders. One of my favorite people to ride with is Jocelyn Snow, up in Salina, California. She's a GS Trophy winner, and I think I told you this at the beginning, maybe before we started the recording. To become a better rider, once you're a good rider, become a better rider. Find somebody who's better than you,
Yeah.
and ride with them.
Yeah.
And so I've learned a whole lot from Jocelyn. Jocelyn has a great training program too, by the way, with a long waiting list for those
Wow.
viewers there that are interested. Also, Dusty Wessels has a great training group called West 38 Moto. Cassie Meyer is another really good trainer to consider. Ben Dragoo and Bill Dragoo in Dart is another really good training program. You just can't get enough training.
Yeah.
Keep
Well,
doing it.
I think that is where we're landing with today. I mean, I was about to ask you, like, what's the advice? And I think you've said it a couple of times, and that's where we are right now. Just get trained and ride with people that are competent and ride with people that are better than you. And
Well, and and you do, and also, private coaching lessons are a good way to go for some
yeah,
folks. But
yeah,
if you go to a certain riding academy or riding program, training program, depending on who your coach is, you're going to learn a certain technique. You could go back to that same training program and have a different coach, and that coach will teach in a different style. The curriculum is typically always the same, but the teaching style is different. So
yeah,
find a coach that, if you're interested in doing training, find a coach that you feel comfortable with.
yeah.
If you don't find that one, I mean, you probably will, but you're going to get little tips. Once you get to be a better rider, you start picking up on really refining tips. Like, for example, think about how I learned this from Jocelyn Snow. So when you're holding the hand rests, we don't call them hand grips, they're hand rests because our hands
Right,
are
right,
softly holding on to that
right.
bar. So you're holding on to the hand rests like it's a hammer. Okay, boom, 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 a hammer. So think about holding on to a screwdriver.
Yeah.
When we screw a screwdriver like this, okay.
Yeah.
So when you have your hands in this position, this hammer position, just change it, particularly if you're doing tight turns, to the screwdriver position. Here, you can't see what's happening with my elbows, but just that little subtle change in my hand position raises my elbows, which allows me to make smoother 180-degree turns. Just
It's
that side.
amazing. It's amazing how that subtle difference creates so much more control over the motorcycle. We talk about like tennis racket versus a hammer, but same thing, the screwdriver, and people can picture that if they're not watching this right now, which we have both options right now. But if you can picture holding that screwdriver versus holding the hammer, hold a screwdriver as you're riding and you get those elbows out and have so
Elbows
much
up.
more control.
Elbows up.
Yeah.
Really helps with turning. Also, another secret on turning is your eyes and your head movement. You can
Yeah.
always tell an experienced rider because when they're making tight turns, they will look
Yeah.
way over their shoulder and
Yeah.
not at the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's been so good having you on here. I miss you, man. I really miss you. I wish we
Let's
were in
go
the
ride
same
together.
room. Yeah. We almost crossed paths not too long ago last summer when I was going across the Colorado. No, I was doing the Continental Divide is what it was. We almost crossed paths, but we couldn't quite make it happen. But let's figure out a time. I'll hit the stop
Well, come
record
out to
here and we'll
Texas.
figure
Come
it
out
out.
to Austin Motor Adventures, son, and see what we're doing here. We're a new training program. We've got private cabins, very nice, very comfortable sleeping and housing accommodations. We've got 1,300 acres that we ride on here at Ripley Peak Ranch.
And give me the website so everybody can hear how to book that.
AustinMotoAdventures.com.
Perfect.
Okay, just like that.
AustinMotoAdventures.com.
So if you come with a partner, we've got queen beds in the cabins. But if the partner's not a riding partner, we've got championship fishing here. We've got 70 miles of mountain bike trails. We've got horseback riding. We've got long range and short range shooting.
Wow.
And we've got a big rock quarry you can scuba dive in.
It sounds like heaven. Are you in heaven right now?
Yeah, living a good life right now, Brock.
That's paradise. Amazing. Okay, I'm gonna come see you in Texas real soon. But hey, let's ride.
All right, let's go.
All right, man.
I've heard somebody say that before. Let's go ride.
Yeah.
Thanks,
hey,
brother.
everybody. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Please tell your friends about it. And there's a lot more adventure coming.